What is up, 7th grade? This is lesson 90. We're going to be talking about solving equations with mixed number coefficients. Just a reminder, the coefficient is the number next to a variable, or next to the letter. And we remember we've solved ones like this before. If we have something like 2/3 x is equal to 6, we remember solving these, but we can multiply by the reciprocal, right? By 3 over 2, which is just the flipped over version. If I multiply one side by that, I have to do the same thing to the other side. And if you want to think of this as 6 over 1, because they're multiplying. So notice on the left-hand side, we'd have 3 times 2 on the top, which would be 6. 2 times 3 on the bottom, which would be 6. The right-hand side, we'd have 18 over 2. Well, 6 over 6 is just 1, and 1 times x is just x. And then 18 divided by 2 gives me 9. So we've done stuff like this before. So now we're going to try to do this whenever we have a mixed number, not just a fraction in front, but a mixed number. Well, really the trick then is to change this mixed number into a fraction. So remember that trick, if we have 3 and 1/3, we take and multiply these. So 3 times 3, that gives me 9. And then I would add this one. So 9 plus 1 is 10, so this is going to be 10/3. You keep the same denominator. So I'm going to change this then to be 10/3 x is equal to 5. And then we can use the same principle that we were using over here, multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over 10. And multiply this side by 3 over 10. If you want to think this is 5 over 1, that might be a little easier, so you know what's on the top and the bottom. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to have 30 divided by 30, which just gives me x, or 1 times x. And over here, I'm going to have 15 over 10. 5 goes into both of those, that gives me 3 over 2. Or x is going to equal to 1 and 1/2. If you want to know how I got from here to here, it was like this. I said 3 divided by 2. So 2 goes into that 1 time. And then my remainder is 1. So let's see if I can do this. The remainder 1 here ended up right here on the top. What I was dividing by, this number down here, ended up right here on the bottom here. And then my whole number, how many times it goes into it completely, is this big number there. So let's try another one. This one is a little bit trickier because we actually have a mixed number on both sides. So we're going to do our little around the world trick to both of these. So I'm going to say 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 1, so this is going to give me 5 over 2x is equal to, and then I'm going to do something similar over here, 8 times 1, which is 8, plus the 7. So 8 plus 7 is 15, so it's going to give me 15 over 8. Then I want to multiply by the reciprocal of this one that's by the x, so I'm going to say 2 over 5. Multiply this by 2 over 5. Now 2 times 5 is 10, 5 times 2 is 10, so this is 10 over 10. So this will just give me the x, or 1x. On the right-hand side, I'm going to go ahead and reduce first, right? The 5s and the 15, both 5 goes into both of those, so 5 goes into that, into 5 1 time, and into 15 3 times. Also, 2 goes into 2 1 time, and into 8 4 times. So I'm going to end up with 3 over 4. Okay, here on example 3, we have something new, which is a negative number here in front of the variable. And really that doesn't really affect us much at all, except for we just need to, whenever we multiply or divide by the reciprocal, we need to include that negative in there, because a negative times a negative would make it positive, and then that would give us a positive x. So it's something new, but not really anything to freak out about. So again, I'm going to multiply this by 3 over the negative 2. Multiply this by 3 over the negative 2. So 3 times negative 2 on the top here gives me negative 6. Negative 2 times 3 gives me negative 6. So negative 6 divided by negative 6 is 1. That just gives me the x. Over here, I'd have 4 times 3, which is 12. 5 times negative 2 gives me negative 10. So if we reduce that, the 2 goes into both of those, 6 and 5. So 6 divided by 5, that goes into that 1 time. When I subtract, I get 1. So x is going to equal to a negative 1 and 1/5. Again, this number, the whole number, is that part. The remainder is the numerator. And then the denominator is this number here. And one more here. Notice here we have a negative 5 times x. So since x is multiplying by negative 5, I need to do the opposite of that, which is just to divide by negative 5. And divide by negative 5. So negative 5 divided by negative 5 is still just 1. So I end up with 1x, or x. And then I do 0.24 divided by 5. We know my answer is going to be negative because those are different signs. So 5 doesn't go into 0. It doesn't go into 2, keeping that decimal place there. It doesn't go into 2, but it does go into 24 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract, I get a 4, add a 0, and it goes into that. 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40, so that gives me 0. So 0.048. Your homework is on page 620. You can do all the practice sets, all the 90s, all the 89s, and 3 more of your choice. You guys are gonna do awesome.